So yeah, I got no one watching just yet. So the everyone who I'm referring to are those of you who have tuned in after the show. So sadly, you won't be able to ask me quite direct questions about this presentation. But if you leave a comment on the video, I always do my best to try and respond to all comments. So I'll be happy to. Don't need this. Be happy to answer any questions that you have later on down the line. I've got a presentation this time, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of time before I start on the presentation. Just gonna fill in and let you know how the fast has been going. So those of you that don't know, I've been fasting for Ramadan and Lent this year. So it's day 18 today. It was St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Happy St. Paddy's Day. The comedy is that I gave up alcohol a couple of years ago, so I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day quite in the same way anymore. I think I would be cast out by Ireland. I am half Irish, and they would definitely have cast me out if I told them that I wasn't drinking alcohol. If I told them I didn't drink tea anymore because I gave up caffeine, that would be it. I'd be disowned by everyone. So yeah, this is a presentation about ring symmetry. So the fasting that I'm doing at the moment is going well. Apart from on Sunday, I ended up letting myself down. I spent most of the day sleeping, which I don't think is very much in the spirit of Ramadan. I was up late on Saturday night trying to finish a giant watermelon that I'd bought, as I realized I didn't have any means of being able to store it or any room in the fridge. So rather than let it go to waste, I thought, if I stay up and finish it, surely can't take too long. 3:30 in the morning, still numbing watermelon. Bad choice. But I was still quite refreshed from it. And the biggest downside was that I woke up the next day about 8 o'clock, fell asleep at about 10 a.m., and then woke up at about 3:45, which I thought was a bit of a cheat, really. You're supposed to be awake and experiencing the fast, not sleeping through it and then staying up and partying all night, eating watermelon. So I feel like I let myself down on the Sunday, but other than that, everything's been good. I've been feeling a lot nicer, a lot cleaner, a lot healthier. I've gotten to that nice middle point where I start to feel occasionally things in the evening, different thoughts come to mind, different things that are like demons that I've got to do battle with. And as soon as I manage to resolve the problem, which is potentially resolved in my dream as I'm asleep, I then wake up the next day, go do my business in the bathroom, and it feels like it's been released. So I feel like I'm tying up loose ends of old traumas and different things in my psyche that are still there and getting rid of them. So that's one of the best things about fasting. That's one of the things I love most about fasting. So on top of that, where I'm doing the sunrise to sunset fast, I'm just sticking with fruits. Being hydrated gives you that feeling. It's like when you feel super hydrated from eating nothing but fruit for a while, you end up feeling a certain level of emotional because your water levels are a lot higher. You find it's easier for you to burst into tears if you delve into certain subjects, especially if it's watching something that's a tear-jerking drama of some kind. So yeah, I've got the presentation that I've prepared for today. I started writing things down in my notebook, but I realized that as you see it on the screen, it's going to come through backwards. So it probably looks a little bit crazy right about now. What I'm going to try and do is turn the camera around and put the book in front of the... Whoa, I'll try not to do that too much. Sorry for those of you who suffer from motion sickness. So this should do the trick. And now people should be able to see. The lighting's not too great. Hopefully I can do something about the lighting. Maybe not. Maybe that's... It says retouch. Not even sure what that means. Highlight. Oh, God. Okay, so it seems that I may need to do something else for the light. Maybe just hold it at a distance. It's not going to be the best quality in graphics. Ah, there we go. So yeah, this is apologies. This is something that I've been working on for a long time. This is something that, if you see at the top, was when I first started looking into music theory. So music theory, you've got the notes, all of the 12 notes of the chromatic scale. You have the C sharp, the D sharp, the E, the F, because there's no E sharp, the F sharp, the G sharp, the A sharp, the B, and then C, because there's no B sharp. So I always found that quite fascinating. And then I started looking into things, thinking that it might be easier for me to learn how to play the guitar and do other things if I was to look at the note jumps in between them. So you got the sharps are considered as the half tones, whereas the letters like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, they're like the white keys on the piano. That's something that you get when you play on a keyboard. The sharps would be the black keys, the letters would be the white keys. So I noticed that the jumps went in a pattern of a jump of 2, then 1, then 2, then 2, then 2, then 1. So I thought, with this pattern being the major scale, it might be worth me having a look at the different modes of the major scale. And then when I put the modes out, you have 7 modes. You have Ionian mode, Dorian mode, Phrygian mode, Lydian mode, Mixolydian mode, Aeolian mode, and Locrian mode. I realize this is getting quite complicated. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I possibly can. So there are the 7 different modes of the major scale. They produce 7 different types of sound. So it's 7 different elements. You've got some that are minor, some that are major, some that would be happy, some that would be sad, some that are going to be very majestic sounding or patriotic sounding. And they're used for different things in different musical pieces. So when I was counting the note jumps, I noticed that the order of them, it seemed to go up depending on which letter you start from. So Ionian mode was as if you started the jumps from the letter C, Dorian from the letter D, Phrygian from the letter E, and so on. As I was drawing out the 7 different modes of the major scale, I noticed that it works the same going across and going down. So you can see the pattern is almost a perfectly balanced symmetry just in this form. Then when I saw things in this form, I noticed that something stood out about one of them. It was Dorian mode. And Dorian mode was the only one that I noticed it was the same forwards as it is backwards. So you end up with 2-1-2, 2-2-1-2, and 2-1-2, 2-2-1-2. This is something called a palindrome. So it's like if you were to look at the word Bob or Hannah or race car, these are all words where they are the same forwards as they are backwards. So where I noticed, whoa, I'm sorry about that. Where I noticed that the Dorian mode is the only palindrome, I also noticed that the other ones were semi-palindromes, also known as subordinates, which is palindromes backwards. So you've got, I'm not even making that up, that is legitimately what they are called. So you've got the 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1 of the Ionian mode is mirrored by the Phrygian mode, 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1. And you got Lydian, 2-2-1, 2-2, 2-2-2-1, 2-2-1, with Locrian, 2-2-2-1, 2-2-1. Mixolydian, 2-2-1, 2-2-1-2, with Aeolian 2-2-1, 2-2-1-2. So that is the way that the balance goes. I noticed that there was 3 of them that were perfectly symmetrical, with 3 others, and one in the middle that would be a palindrome, so it's symmetrical with itself. So I've done another graph where I separated them into a circle. Not sure if you can see this properly. This is how I've laid them out. This is as right. If I was to turn the camera at this point, this would probably make things a bit easier. Apart from the light disappearing. So there is and how do I turn the light up? Managed it before, it's not working now, never mind. So they are the 7 of them put in a circle so that the line of symmetry in the middle is showing the perfect balance between the left side and the right side. So you have the line of symmetry and then the Ionian on the left, Phrygian on the right, and so on. I decided to go a little bit further with this one and add in the black keys on the piano. So these are the half notes, the sharp and flat keys. So this is the C sharp, the D sharp, the E. And that makes up, hang on. So you got C over here, then that would be C sharp or D flat. Then you got D, and then that's D sharp or E flat. Then you've got E, and as there's no E sharp or F flat, then it goes straight to F. Then you've got F sharp, G, got G sharp, A sharp, and B. So then it goes back to C, and that completes the 12 notes of the chromatic scale. So then if you were to look at the 5 black keys, you notice that they also fit into the same pattern. When you get one on the left, you get one on the right. That's that line of symmetry down the middle. There's also another line of symmetry, which is this line here. If you consider B and F to be considered as both full tones and half tones, both black and white keys, then you get another line of symmetry here, in which every time you get a white key on the top, you get a black key on the bottom. When you get a black key on the top, you get a white key on the bottom. So it's almost like this pattern is emerging with perfect symmetry in a ring fashion. So this was my first discovery of ring symmetry. It was in music. And I also found that when I was showing this to people, it was something that they said was already a discovery, because I was trying to find out more information about it. And my friend said, oh, well, that's just the circle of fifths. And I said, well, it's not the circle of fifths, because I've looked up the circle of fifths, but I included the circle of fifths and managed to find the Francis Charles goes down and enters battle, when drawn lines on, creates a perfect pentagram. At this point, I had looked at the discovery and considered that maybe music was in Satan's domain, as the pentagram was often associated with Satan. So I thought that maybe that would make sense with music, with a lot of people, especially in the world of rock and roll and often jazz, who have, plus Paganini, I believe, was said to have sold his soul to be able to play the violin that well. This is the devil's world music. It would make sense. But honestly, I don't believe that the devil controls all music. The devil tries to. The devil didn't create music. The devil can't create. Can only pervert and twist what is already there. Only God can create. Only the highest and most almighty is capable of that level of creation. You won't get the devil being able to create anything like this. All the devil can do is take something like this and manipulate it to use it for his own gain. What I discovered years later is that the star the five-pointed star, is actually the same five-pointed star you get from Venus as it completes its journey throughout the year, or throughout its complete solar return or complete celestial return, however it would be worded. You would have a perfect five-pointed star painted in the sky, and that is a representation of Venus. Venus was also known in Roman times as Lucifer Morning Star, which is often associated with the devil again. So Venus is often linked to symmetry, as Venus is about beauty. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and Venus is to do with the symmetry, which is the beauty and the harmony. You have Mars being Adam and Venus being Eve, Eve Venus, Mara Dim. You have the two opposing ends. So you've got the Mars comes up in the morning. So that'd be the morning. The evening is what you get from Eve, Venus. So Venus is one of the luminaries in the sky that you can see both in the morning and in the evening, depending on what time of year it is. But I'm not going into that at the moment. This is just a little explanation of the star. What I noticed with ring symmetry is that you find it in things that are divine creations, which is why I wanted to stress the importance that where I'm showing you the five-pointed star, where I'm showing you music theory, that you recognize music was not created by the devil. This is something that I find is part of divine creations. And this page here, I took a quote from Al-Baqarah, which is the cow in Arabic, which is the second chapter of the Qur'an, or the second surah. So you have this same kind of symmetry I've placed, where you got the symmetrical point in the middle. I'll start with the beginning of the surah. This is verse 255. So it starts by saying, Allah, there is no deity except Him, the ever-living, the self-sustaining. Neither drowsiness overtakes Him nor sleep. To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. Who is it that can intercede with Him except by His permission? He knows what is before them and what will be after them, and they encompass not a thing of His knowledge, except for what He wills. His kursi, which means chair in Arabic, extends over the heavens and the earth, and their preservation tires Him not, and He is most high, the most great. So these have an interesting symmetry within them as well. You've got the middle line, He knows what is before them and what will be after them. So you've got on the one side of the symmetry is before, which the opposite of before is after. Then the preceding and succeeding lines are, who is it that can intercede with Him except by His permission? And they encompass not a thing of His knowledge except for what He wills. So His permission and He wills, pretty much similar meaning, the except on both sides. To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. His kursi extends over the heavens and the earth, so you've got heavens and earth on both sides. Neither drowsiness overtakes Him nor sleep, and their preservation tires Him not. So drowsiness and preservation, we sleep as a preservation method, and sleep tires drowsiness. These are both words that share similar meanings, and it's balanced on both sides. There is no deity except Him, the ever-living, the self-sustaining, the most high, the most great. So everything here seems to be operating on the same level of perfect harmony and balance. And this is one of the reasons why I love scriptures. This is one of the reasons why I love the Quran. And this is one of the reasons why I want to learn how to speak Arabic fluently, so that I can see all of these in the original form and catch all of the bits that were lost in translation. So Al-Baqarah, the cow, is actually the longest verse in the Quran, or it's the longest surah in the Quran. It has 286 chapters or verses, and it has the middle verse, which refers to a change in the direction of prayer, actually includes the word median, which, if any of you have done Key Stage 2 maths or Key Stage 3 maths, you'll know that the median is the middle when you are looking at the two extremes, the two ends of the range. The lowest and highest number, the middle would be the median. So the median is the middle. It appears in verse 143, which is exactly half of 286. And you have the pattern of all of the groupings of the verses. So it starts with faith and unbelief, and it ends with faith and unbelief. It goes on to creation and knowledge, and the second to last is creation and knowledge. You had the laws given to the Israelites, mirrored by the laws given to Muslims. Abraham was tested, mirrored by Muslims will be tested. And in the middle was the change in the direction of prayer. And as you change in the direction, that indicates a symmetry. So this is, I'll turn this back now. That's it. So this is as far as I've got in the written side of the presentation. It's very complicated. I think it'd be probably easier for me to do something in forms of a video where I can get the graphics a lot better and it's not just me holding up a page. But I thought it would be something worth sharing. It's something that I find inspires me when looking at scripture, realizing how much is hidden, how much knowledge is actually in there, how much has been stored away. Because before there was this level of peace that we found at the moment, a lot of people were looking at their temples, their homes would get raided. There'd be people that turn up to attack your village and they will steal whatever knowledge you have. So a lot of knowledge was encoded, especially into the scriptures. And this could have been done by the initial prophets themselves, although Muhammad didn't initially write any of the Quran down. He was not the writer, he was revealing it to people orally. So this would have to be attributed to the people that wrote the verses, as the way it was written is perfectly encompassing of the ring symmetry, of the perfect balance. And I find that that's not all that the scriptures have. It's so many layers. In the Arabic version of the Quran, the word Sawm, which means day, appears 365 times. And also the word Ayam, meaning days, appears 30 times, as 30 is the amount of days that there are in a moon cycle, approximately. Of course, the moon is quite important to Islam, as the Islamic calendar is the lunar calendar. So this was just a small presentation on bits and pieces that I've discovered while I've been researching on the Quran in particular. There are plenty in other scriptures too. I think that the amount that is hidden away in scriptures, you could spend a lifetime revealing them and still not get through all of them. I think that when it comes to the information that is concealed, that is not obvious to the naked eye, it's something that I believe in the Bible. It says those with the eyes to see and the ears to hear are able to understand, but those who would mock will only see the surface level. And that's as far as they will get with their understanding. So, say if you were the kind of person that would invade someone else's home, invade someone else's temple, you find these books, you wouldn't realize that the information is in there. You'd look at the book, mock it, throw it away. That would be as much as the value of it appears to that type of person. So, very clever in terms of steering people away from the truth, or not even steering people away, just making the truth less visible to those who are that way inclined. And I feel like a lot of religions in the past, a lot of every scripture I've read seems to allude to this, that the truth is hidden from the non-believers. The truth is hidden from people that will mock. Whereas those that are willing to spend the time looking into it in a more creative way, they'll realize that there's a lot more than meets the eye, and they'll realize exactly the true value of the scriptures. And of course, they would sound crazy if they said this to anyone. I imagine people listening to me talk about it now, there's only a certain type of person that's going to be able to accept the information. Whereas most people would listen, go, yeah, all right, mate, find something else to watch. It's perfectly designed. It's perfectly designed. People will look and look away if they're not ready. If they're ready, you don't need me. I'm just a figment here of your being that has pointed at something that you could go research for yourself. I'm not a guru or a spiritual leader. I don't see myself as anything other than a person sharing my journey. I like sharing the things that I've discovered. I like often share the places in which I discovered it. I can't remember where I initially saw the ring composition. I know there is a YouTube video that I was able to find recently. It wasn't the initial video that I found. I will share that in this link. I will put the link in the description for this live video when I put this up and make it public. So yeah, if anyone had any questions, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, I'm going to take this time to waffle on a bit, as I'm still getting used to the idea of live streaming. This is my third live stream, and it's the first time I've attempted to do a presentation that has a topic. So it was good to get it out of the way early before anything came up that could maybe interrupt, maybe cause any loss of place. I find that when it comes to the intricate designs of things, the amount of wordplay that can be done, there are lots of things that get lost in translation. There's a lot of things that you can't get just from having the English piece alone. There was a Japanese anime that someone started copying. It was something that involved a lot of spies hiding messages in words and changing the way that the letters are in order to make the words. But in Japanese, you don't have letters in the way that we do with consonants and vowels. You'd get, I think they're called muras, where each one has a consonant and a vowel together, like kake ki koku, ta te ti to tsu. This is very different when you try and play the same word games. So when things are moved outside of translation, that's when you start to lose some of the magic from the books. Things can only be copied so far and maintain the same level of perfect balance. So this is another of the reasons why, even though I have the English translations of these books, I'm more looking to learn the language, to really look in depth at what is there. There are things in the Torah which are based on gematria. Gematria is where you have number value assigned to all of the letters. So say A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3, D would be 4, Z would be 26. This is in simple gematria. In Hebrew, it would have been different by the time you get to um, where there's Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zain, uh, when you think it's Ain and Yod, maybe. When you get to Yod, Yod is the 10th letter and then becomes the value of 10. Then the next letter has the value of 20. The next would be the value of 30. Think then Mime, which is the value of 40. It's been a long time since I've studied Hebrew. That's something that I need to brush back up on. Yeah, the gematria, you can do the value of your name. You can find different things that it links to. I've done that in previous videos just as a bit of fun. It's not something that's got any deep intrinsic meaning, but you do find a lot of things that add up when they're laid out in such a way. And when things work that well, you can only assume that the people who wrote the books placed it there on purpose. This is why it was of most importance that everything gets copied out letter for letter without a single piece of it changed. You can't just add your own words and expect it all to add up to the same values and for the same letters to fall in the exact same places. Like in the middle of the Torah, there is a Vav, which the Vav represents a mirror, and it is a large Vav. It's the largest Vav that appears in the Torah, which appearing as the exact middle letter, if you counted up all of the letters in the Torah, for the exact middle letter, and it's in the word belly. So for it to be included right at that point, it is done by design. It's done by intelligent design. You have people that would claim that the books were written by man and people that would claim that the books are direct word of God. Well, they're definitely divine when they include balances like this, perfect balances in creation. Whether they were written by man or God, I'll leave that for you to decide. That is a matter of faith, I believe. I believe that things are created in this world through divine inspiration. So some people, they talk of channeling things. They don't think about things. They don't plan things. They just start and it comes out in one fluent motion. Right? This would be people who write songs and the song comes out in one fluent motion. It's like they've channeled it from somewhere else. A lot of famous stars say that they don't remember writing their best works, like Jimmy Page with Stairway to Heaven. Says he doesn't remember writing it and wishes he knew what it meant, which is quite comical, but if true, is quite interesting too. So the way that scriptures are written is written absolutely perfect in order to be able to include these things. I have more of a history with the New Testament rather than other scriptures, as I was raised as Roman Catholic in the early days. Wasn't raised strictly Roman Catholic, and I was able to have enough freedom to explore other ideas. I wasn't made to go to church. I decided to for my own curiosity. Decided I wasn't too keen on the way that the church communities were, but did find a lot of things in the New Testament that were very insightful. And then years later, hearing that the New Testament contains a lot of things to do with astrology, the different 12 houses of astrology, the different 12 disciples of Jesus. They say Jesus refers to the sun as the sun moves through the 12 houses. And this is a book that's made of Jesus told through the perspective of 12 disciples. There's certain things within it that seem to balance perfectly with different attributes, like Judas gave Jesus the kiss of death as he was betraying him for 30 pieces of silver. And it's a representation of Scorpio, as the scorpion, if it stings you, the sting looks like a bite or a kiss. It looks like lips, and it's referred to as the kiss of death because a scorpion's sting could be fatal. And the 30 pieces of silver refer to the month of Scorpio, as you get the sun going behind the clouds, casting a silvery glow in the air. And it's 30 days of this. It's 30 pieces of silver in the sky, which I find to be very fascinating, that the book is written, even if this wasn't intentional, it happens to be written in a way in which it can be interpreted perfectly that way. Don't think these things should be ignored. I think that these are interesting links between old scriptures and, I guess, old traditions. And it's interesting that some balance with science that wasn't available at the time, as with the Quran mentioning the 365, the word day comes in 365 times. Now, people were following the lunar calendar at this point, so that would have been a level of hidden knowledge if anyone had it at the time, because that is 365 days of the seasonal calendar, which is what we follow now. The lunar calendar has less days, about 11 days less. So for the book to contain the 365 is almost like a little nod for those that are able to recognize, for they too have the hidden knowledge. A lot of flags you'll see have the four cherubim. They have the lion, the bull, the human, and the scorpion or eagle. So the eagle is a representation of Scorpio, the human is a representation of Aquarius, the water carrier, and the bull and the lion be Taurus and Leo. So that's the seasonal calendar based on the houses, the constellations in which divide the year up into 12 segments. And that knowledge was something that people wanted to keep hidden, but also let other people know that they knew. So one of the ways of doing this is to place the flag with the four cherubim, or to put statues of the four cherubim, or something that denotes to other people that are in the know. It's like a insider knowledge. You would recognize the type of place that you're in and the type of knowledge that they hold based on what they display. So yeah, I've been enjoying talking to you guys. I appreciate, well, just one of you watching now. I understand this isn't the most exciting of topics. It's something that I find very fascinating, but something that I'm afraid a lot of people will switch off, especially when I talk about things that are relating to maths, especially, or a lot of people don't like maths, a lot of people don't like or trust astrology, which is understandable if you look at bad maths teachers or people like Mystic Meg that tell you that you can pick these special lottery numbers and they'll give you luck. And there's like so many there's at least 12 different ones for the 12 different signs, and there's more than just six numbers there. Not everybody's number will come up. It's complete rubbish. And people have used it for years. They've taken things like astrology, they've taken things like tarot cards, and they've tried selling it to you as a way of selling you a fortune. And you should be aware of these people, because them selling you a fortune could cost you a fortune. This is something that I consider as the highest level of misdirection. So people that could recognize that these things were created by God, the stars in the sky, the luminaries in the sky, the movements, if you were to follow them every day of your entire life, you would not see one single repeated day where you'd look up and all of the planets were exactly in the position that they were a previous time when you looked up. It's like each individual look at the night sky will give you its own individual fingerprint. It's all going to be completely different, even spanning past your lifetime. you would have to go back a serious number of years. We're talking millions and millions of years to try and find one day where you look up and catch all of the luminaries in the exact same position as they were in a previous time. This is something that can only be created by the highest, the Almighty that created everything. So you've got Father Time and you've got Mother Nature, but you've got above both of those would be the creator who you can compare nothing to. In some Indian traditions, in Hindi traditions, is referred to as Anama, which means no name, because you can't give it a name, because it is the highest and the most almighty. You can give many names and descriptions, but there is no one fixed name. There is, he's referred to as the name, he's referred to as the God. The These are descriptions that we are able to use to try and compute what this is with our limited understanding. What we're really doing here is trying to describe infinity, which is impossible, as it's the description for it should never end, same as it will never end. And even after explaining it from now until the last breath, you'd still not have covered everything that there is to cover. So this is where I stand on my understanding of scripture and knowledge. I like to take part in traditions. I like to experience them firsthand because I believe that there is a lot more to them than meets the eye. I think a lot of Christians should engage with Lent. Lent is a giving up something that you love or a habit. So, say if you were looking at giving up smoking, Lent would be a perfect opportunity. 46 days of giving up smoking. Now, it's only 40 days, and on Sundays, rejoice, for the Lord has risen. So people see that as a relaxed day. People that are fasting are not fasting on that day. People that are giving something up, I imagine, then would be allowed to have it on that day, which means you're only really going 6 days at a time without and then having it again. Me personally, I try and do the full 46 days. So this year I've given up smoking cannabis for Lent, and it's going well so far. I've been having a lot more dreams. Your dreams become very vivid. I've given up tobacco years ago, excuse me. I noticed that my sense of smell came back very sharp after that. I gave up cannabis this time round, and my sense of smell has increased somewhat more. Also, because of fasting, dry fasting during the day, and only eating fruit and drinking fruit juice in the evenings, my sense of taste and sense of smell have shut up. I'm able to taste things in fruit that I'd eaten before, which was seemingly tasteless. I'm able to smell things from a distance. Like I could smell my partner the other day. I could tell she was brushing her teeth because I could smell the toothpaste from the other room. And the toothpaste isn't exactly strong. It's something that only comes as when your senses get more sensitive. And this, I think, is one of the things that gets lost if you're part of a religion and you don't practice fasting. Most religions do practice fasting. There's, I think, Sikhism is the only one I've seen which doesn't look too favorably upon fasting, but still does say if you were to do it, then do it for health reasons, as it's not going to bring you closer to God. I think that it makes you more sensitive. It helps bring back your senses, and your senses will help you find that connection with God if that is what you're seeking, which I think a lot of people in the Ramadan season are seeking, as it's not just about giving up food and drink for sunrise to sunset. It's also about clearing out anything else that would be separating you and God. So anything that stops you from having a connection with God or remembrance of God, like mindless entertainment or music, often, or gossiping, talking about people behind their back, swearing. It's another level of discipline that puts your mind in another level of awareness and allows you to see things in a way that previously you'd be numb to, you would be desensitized to. So they say this world is the devil's world. Um, it is where the devil was sent in the stories of him being a fallen angel, and the whole purpose of the devil or Iblis or Satan in these stories, it's about showing God that these humans aren't worth respecting or capitulating to or serving, because they are just down and out, no good people who only care about themselves and their own pleasures. They don't care about others. And the idea of the devil running this world isn't too far fetched when you look at how many things are here to desensitize us. So you've got things like OnlyFans, loads of porn everywhere. These are all things that desensitize you in terms of one of the most sensual of acts. It's something that encourages you to waste your seed, and wasting your seed is also making you more numb to things. There's often people that I've talked to that were so addicted to porn that looking at pictures of a girl's breasts wouldn't turn them on anymore. Looking at their partners wouldn't turn them on anymore. They'd be numb to this, and they'd have to seek out darker perversions in order to find any kind of arousal. Then you have the food, the amount of processed food that is just given to us, and it makes you less sensitive, because on top of not receiving nourishment, then something's being forced in its place that is not nourishing, and the flavors are there, the really rich flavors, the dense flavors that then dull your senses to the subtle flavors of the natural fruits or veg that you would find. I remember after my first 80-day fast, I ended up eating some spinach out of the bag, and I had no idea that it had that much flavor in it. I could taste salt, I could taste sweet notes, I could taste so many things that I didn't realize were a part of the flavor of spinach. And it was one of the tastiest meals that I've ever eaten. And that only came from a heightened sense of sensitivity in my taste and smell. And that came from abstaining from food for a while, as it was a juice fast, and I was having smoothies, effectively like eating fruit as well, because you get fruit fibers. And that was the first introduction I had to fasting. After that, I've never looked back, and now take every opportunity I can to fast. Do as many fasts as I can in the year. I often find it's easier to follow a tradition. So there's days that are set, like with Lent and Ramadan, there's specific days that are set which are following the luminaries. So it follows a good time in which you can start and end the fast. These are tried and tested for years. These are traditions that are countless years old, and they've been very beneficial to the people that have done them in the past. And this world seems determined to desensitize everyone. Everything's about violence and sex when it comes to entertainment, like watching things on Netflix, watching things on television. Not that I've watched television in a long time. There's not everything falls into this like evil category of trying to desensitize people, but it happens so often that it's almost as if this is the devil's world, and the devil's doing his best to make sure that we're not sensitive enough to realize what we're doing, and then give us enough rope to hang ourselves and trip ourselves up. So that's how I feel about this world. It feels like what we've got to do is try and avoid the temptations of the devil, the shaitan whispering in your ear, the devil on your shoulder, the bad wolf, the bad snake, like whichever interpretation from whichever mythological pantheon that there is. It's all advising you to beware of the devil. Watch out for dancing with the devil. To dance with the devil might last you forever, as said by the amazing Immortal Technique, a rapper who I managed to show to a friend of mine who was 13 years old when I showed him the song. He was going down a dark path as he was hanging out with people that thought of themselves as gangsters and doing things that were a little bit on the getting police involved side of things. And after showing him this song, it was a wake up call as to what can happen if you blindly follow into these paths. You'll one day turn to God and realize that God isn't there and only the devil responds. And that's when you realize how a dance with the devil can last you forever. Not going to go through the lyrics in that song are very dark. It's about a boy who ends up joining a gang, and the initiation was to rape and murder a woman to show that he was cold hearted. And the woman that they selected turned out to be his own mother. So that was a horrible realization for him that he was going along with this crowd, felt like it was perfectly acceptable to commit these actions, and found out in the worst way how damaging it can be when someone does those things, because you wouldn't want it done to your mum, would you? You wouldn't want it done to someone who you love. And that's another thing in scriptures: treat others how you expect to be treated or how you'd like to be treated. It's much better in this world to adhere to that, as I've had that as a belief in the past. I believe that we are all one and that reincarnation was inevitable. If you This was while I was eating meat, by the way. This was something that I looked at when I was still eating lots of bacon. Like, I'd be eating vegetarian breakfast sometimes, but add bacon to it because that was how much I loved eating bacon. And even then, I was in the back of my head thinking that I'm going to have to come back as each one of these pigs. Like, I'm going to have to live as, like, how many pigs have I eaten? Like, that's how many times I've got to come back as a pig to pay for what I've eaten. And I was still comfortable with what I was doing. Well, one day I managed to snap out of it. I realized how much damage I'd done to my insides, mainly through processed foods, but the way they process the meat that they sell people isn't good. They are high risk of parasites if things aren't cooked properly. There's things that, if you're going to be buying meat, the best thing for you to do is to source it from a trusted farm. As a lot of the stuff that you get in the supermarket, it's been drained of its blood, it's been plumped, it's had things injected into it, it's had antibiotics injected into it, or chlorine if you're in America. It's chlorinated chicken was a thing that they were worried about coming over here in the UK. Chlorinated chicken is just as bad, I guess, as having antibiotics put in there. The doctors tell you you're not supposed to have too many antibiotics, otherwise it becomes ineffective then when you need them. And this is processed meat, basically, the processing that goes into the food that we have. It's disgusting, the amount that goes into it. What we end up sitting down to eat at the dinner table is often far removed from nature. And that, I think, is what makes us more desensitized. I think that the main way of coming back to our senses is through fasting. And interesting that there are 5 senses that we know of. There is touch, sound, sense, smell, and taste. And of those 5 senses, all of them have 5 letters: TASTE, SOUND, SIGHT, SMELL, TAST. I've forgotten which one I've not mentioned now, but they're all 5-letter words, including the word sense is a 5-letter word. And I find that the best way to gain your senses back is by fasting. And the religion that goes the most extreme on fasting, I think, is Islam, another 5-letter word. So Islam has 5 pillars of Islam. One of them is which to pray 5 times a day, Salah. So this is something I find very interesting when it comes down to coming back to your senses. Seems that by doing the traditions, by following the traditions of Islam, you would be able to find your way back to your senses. And by this, I mean like the proper way of doing Ramadan, not just sleeping through the day, staying up all night, drinking, smoking, partying, eating, playing games, and then sleeping through the next day. I mean, like those that truly put themselves in the shoes of the poor, those that are truly doing as intended in the way of Muhammad, in the having empathy for those who have nothing, putting yourselves in the shoes of those who can't afford food. They're not coming back to a big feast at the end of the fast. They're coming back to something that's going to be very basic because it needs to go a lot further. It's probably something like 2 ingredients, maybe rice and beans, maybe bread and cheese, something basic. And even then, a small amount of it because you're looking at having more to give to your wife and child, more for your family, more for your loved ones. And the people that follow that level of discipline are the ones that would feel the full benefits of coming back to their senses and being able to achieve this sense of the higher presence. I find that when I start fasting, I get to a stage where my faith is fully restored. I'm no longer in any doubt about what I should do, where I am in life, where I'm going. Everything feels like it's happened exactly the way it needed to in order for me to experience exactly what I needed to. And that, I think, is my connection with God, that I feel like things are going on the right path and I'm no longer going down that path I was years ago, where I was just mocking everything as my way of coping. I did a lot of stand-up comedy. You can see me doing a lot of dark stand-up comedy. I didn't personally upload any of this to the internet, and I also didn't remove any of it from the internet, so it's still out there, but it's not something I promote. It's things that were very dark and very um, extreme. So I thought that the what I was doing was making light of dark situations and helping people to laugh at life, when really it was helping people to become more detached from life, more disconnected, as being able to laugh at horrific things is becoming desensitized to them. So it's again that similar theme, like even a lot of the comedy that you see, the stuff that was popular in my childhood was the Jimmy Carr, the Frankie Boyle, the dark, rude comedy that went past boundaries. And I'm not even knocking the comedy. I found it hilarious at the time. I still laugh at it now sometimes because you can't help what you laugh at sometimes. When something's funny, it's funny. But I bear in mind not to become so desensitized that I can't also recognize that a lot of the time it's horrible situations that are being mentioned. And it's not worth just seeing everything as a joke just because a lot of things in life are ridiculous. I can find people that feel cheated by the government and cheated by the way that the world works, often see everything as ridiculous in the same way as me. They rebel and start just projecting everything as ridiculous. But I think that since I came back to my senses, my focus now is more on finding connectivity again, being able to reunite. And that is the root word of religion. It apparently comes from religare, which means to bind together. Re-legion, if you break it down, legion for we are many, and re coming back together with the many. So, like in the beginning of the Bible, they talk about God separating the waters from the waters. So, if the waters were to reunite with the waters and become one, that would be hydrogen, which is the first element of the periodic table. That is the first element in which everything else has apparently been um, manifested from. Although this is something that only the Most High could do. This is not something that I believe that we're capable of doing ourselves. Although if you were to listen to satsangs, it can put you into guided meditation in which you're able to feel your mind coming together, like the left and right hemisphere of your brain joining together, almost as if they were initially one. I think those of you who are into the twin flames experience would notice at points like this that you and your flame would be closer to reuniting as you manage to achieve that state. Now, this isn't an easy task by any means. This is a task that a lot of people would say there are strict ways of being able to find this connection with God, being able to find this awareness of God. Whereas I think it's very simple. When you come back to your senses, you can feel it. It's something that you can feel. You can tell the difference between doing something of goodwill and doing something of the devil. I I'm not sure if my live chat is working here. We're about an hour in. There's five of you watching here. I wonder if one of you could do me the favor of just typing something into the live chat so I'd be able to see if it's working or I need to refresh this page. Ah, that lost one of you. There's four of you now. I don't mean to scare you away. I was in there. You don't have to. I'm happy to not respond to live chat messages. This is me. I'm happy to waffle on. Yeah, I find my journey has started from a place where I was doing a lot of psychedelic drugs all the time. And I decided after a while that even these were not that great, as I recognized other drugs were very damaging to your body. I thought that the two that gave you positive benefits were cannabis and mushrooms. So that was naturally upon our planet. It was like the drugs that were made by God rather than made by man. So a lot more trustworthy. Now, the way I feel about things, I don't think you need drugs. I think that you can find your way to these experiences without drugs. The drugs just enable you to use them as like a cheat code that initiates the experience without you getting there the natural way. I think that the scriptures give you indications of how to get there the natural way. And a lot of people, they feel this when they get deep into prayer or deep into meditation. There's a lot of people, especially Muslims, that have found a deep connection with the Quran and it's brought them to tears. It's inspired something inside of them that is such a deep presence. And I felt this while I've been on psychedelics, but I often found that psychedelics is like forcing you through the experience, and it's an unpleasant experience when you make this level of realization. I found myself in tears a lot of time, feeling like I wasn't worthy, feeling like I was feeling divine presence and that I wasn't worthy of it, that I was disgusting, that God had given me this body and what had I done with it? I wasted all of my opportunities and I fed it with things that weren't good for it, ate loads of processed food, did lots of alcohol and damaging drugs, did loads of caffeine and nicotine and all of the addictive stuff, didn't look after it, wasn't maintaining my body, spent a lot of time cursing my body, cursing the life I'd been given, instead of recognizing the true gift that it was. And when you're faced with that level of the divine staring back at you feel like you are not worth the presence. You want the world to open up and a hole to just swallow you up and take you away. And that I think is a lot of what stops people from having a connection with God or having a connection with their higher selves, having a connection with whatever interpretation that they recognize as the most high. It's just feeling that deep down we know that we don't really deserve it. Deep down we know everything about ourselves, not just the surface level that other people know about us. We know all of our secrets, all of the things that make us feel ashamed. At the end of the day, they're just mistakes. We learn from mistakes. It's not a sin to make a mistake, but it is a sin not to learn from it. It's like ignorance is supposedly the only sin, according to some philosophers. There are the seven deadly sins, which are referred to in a lot of texts: the anger, sloth, pride, greed, gluttony, envy, and lust. And these are things that can lead to murder, can lead to horrible crimes if you don't keep them in check. But mainly, you make mistakes and you learn from them in all of these categories. If you're not willing to learn from mistakes in the first place, then that's what a lot of people consider to be the only sin: ignorance, ignoring the signs. And I don't blame people for this. We're born into a world where we're desensitized to everything. Of course, we're not going to notice the signs. We haven't got the eyes to see or the ears to hear or the tongue to taste or the nose to smell. We're numb to it all. It's not our fault. It's the conditions that we were placed in. But upon realizing this, once we know better, we really need to start doing better, because that is learning from our mistakes. It's like we can gain the knowledge as much as we want, but if we don't put it into practice, then what good is the knowledge? Like, you could memorize the scriptures, you could know every word of the Quran, but if you're not following the words of the Quran, what point is there? You could know every word of the Old and New Testament, but if you don't follow them, what is the point? If you don't live your life by them, what is the point? You may as well have spent your time partying and drinking, at least enjoying the things that would keep you down, rather than missing out and believing yourself to be doing something whilst being numb to the fact that you're not doing it. Jesus in the Bible said about how you call me, O Lord, and then not do as I say. It doesn't make sense for you to be preaching this to people, but they're not understanding it well enough to be doing it yourself. Jesus talks about fasting. There's the best way of ridding yourself of demons is to fast. A lot of demons you can only get rid of through fast and prayer. The prayer is fasting of thought. They say when you pray, don't pray as the heathens do out in public for everyone to see. I know that's a bit hypocritical of me. I come on here and I'm out in public talking about my fasting. But true fasting should be done between you and God. I'm not here trying to get benefits from a fast that is between me and God. There's things that I do that are between me and God. There's deeds that I do that I don't like to talk about, and I'm not going to talk about them now. The things that I do that are public on purpose, because I believe that sharing this journey with people will help people realize. I mean, not everybody needs to hear this, but there's some people out there that would be like I was when I was first hearing things like this, that will suddenly connect dots, realize that it's not as hopeless as I believe it to be. Uh, I can make changes if I want to make changes. It just comes down to having that discipline and making that push. And a lot of it becomes easier if you're able to find temperance by fasting. And as soon as you find temperance, the devil is there whispering in your ear, trying to pull you away, trying to convince you that you need to be somewhere else, doing something else. Jesus talks about prayer in the Bible. It's not praying like the heathens do out loud in front of people, for they will get their rewards. Their rewards is the respect they get from the physical people around them, that they want to have the image of what they're doing. They want to be seen to be doing what they're doing. And they're out there getting the rewards that they're after because their fast was between them and the people. A bit like me. I've had people listening to my journey. They've subscribed to my channel and things like this. I don't go out asking for subscribes or shares. I'd actually rather for things to be kept small, as I like to have a small community that are able to talk on the live chats without it getting to a point where things will just shoot off the screen because too many people are commenting at once. I'm not looking for fame or fortune. I'm looking to share my journey. I have full faith that everybody that needs to hear this is going to hear this. People will be drawn to it, and the right people will find it. I don't need to be out there promoting it and sharing it around for that to happen. That's the magic of this world. People are drawn to what they need to see. And I think that when it comes to prayer, the best thing to do is sit in stillness and silence, because the prayer is between you and God. Jesus talks about it. You go inside the closet, you shut thy door, and you don't speak because the Lord already knows of what you need. And this is one of the most importance, because if you're putting your hands together and asking for something, you're praying and you're asking for something. You don't need to ask. It's already known what you need. You just need to give the attention and listen. If you can achieve that state of being able to sit and listen without any outside noises distracting you, that is true prayer. This voice that you get in your ear is the devil trying to pull you away from that, because he knows as soon as you manage to achieve that state, he has lost you, and he's failed to convince God that you are worthless and good for nothing. You know, all those things that he whispers into your ear, which is one of the reasons fasting helps with this kind of meditation, this kind of prayer. You are able to completely rid yourself of the other urges inside of you, so that as you sit there in the stillness and silence, you won't be getting the signals telling you that you're hungry, and then the voice comes in going, maybe I should do this after I've had something to eat. Anything to pull you away from that moment, because you're about to find true divinity in that moment. That is the connection between you and God. That is what people who follow the actual text would strive for. You don't need to go to a temple to pray. Yes, be part of a community. I'm not telling you not to practice religion in the way that you want to. But the way it says in the books that I have read, in the scriptures that I have read, is that in order to have a relationship with God, all you need is to shut yourself off from the outside world and sit in the stillness and silence. And that is the best way. That is the way that people will feel the answers come to you. It's like after a while of not having thoughts in words, you have your eureka moment where you know exactly what you need to do. The inspiration gets you from within. You know what you need to be doing next in life. You know what order to do things in. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to decide for yourself. It becomes clear. And at those moments, in those few moments that I have managed to achieve in my own journey, that's given me the clarity to decide what I want to do here. That's why I come on and do these shows. I find that it's a way that helped me when I was first looking for answers. I was really depressed. Things had just gone downhill. There was, in the middle of the lockdown, this was 2021. I'd been arguing with all of my friends online because everyone was at each other's throats because of the political divides. And I was under the impression there was a massive reveal coming that was going to discover a lot of things like the Jeffrey Epstein story, which came out a couple of years before. And it didn't materialize in the way that I thought it would. And I discredited myself completely. And I felt really rejected by the world. I felt rejected by the truth and the truth communities that I'd been a part of. And I was in a lot of pain because I was drinking heavily, because I'd started drinking heavily as I started arguing with all of my friends, but I still could not stop arguing. It was like an addiction. It was like every minute that I had spare, I'd be going onto a social media site and arguing with someone. And the conflict, it just led to me drinking heavy amounts of alcohol, a lot of the time neat spirits. Alcohol actually comes from al-kul, which is Arabic for body eating spirit. It's not good for you. It damages you. I'd done a lot of damage to my body, and I had really bad pains in my stomach. I was also eating 3 McDonald's meals a day just for breakfast. As serious amounts of damage that I'd done, serious amounts of possibly irreversible damage. But then I managed to start healing once I started fasting. Before I discovered fasting, I had a really dark night of feeling really down, really under everything. And I decided to just, in complete helplessness, surrender to God. I put my hands together and I begged for some kind of indication, of some kind of sign that can lead me to the truth. I was begging for truth at that point because I didn't know anything anymore. I didn't know if anything that I believed was true, false. I didn't know any of it. I put my hands together, I begged and prayed. And not long after that, there was maybe the next day, I started looking up sacred geometry again, as it had been years since I looked at it. I thought I'd go back to basics of what you can look at and what you can prove. There isn't anything more basic than looking at sacred geometry and Metatron's cube, the flower of life, the seed of life, the fruit of life. And then saw about the tree of life And I was like, okay, I understand how to produce the seed and the flower and the fruit, but I don't know about the tree of life. So I looked into the tree of life, which is the Kabbalah. I learned about the dance of the Hebrew letters and the meanings behind the Hebrew letters, as they're all building blocks. Upon looking at things like this, I started finding out about syncretism and listening to Santos Bonacci, who was often talking about different things like astrology in the Bible and different hidden meanings behind symbols, and a lot of hidden knowledge in the scriptures that I'd never previously considered. And I found this to be fascinating, especially then as he started looking into anything that contained the word Ram. And there was a big presentation on everything that contained the word Ram, and all of these things having links to the Lamb of God. And it's an amazing presentation. I'll put a link in the description. It was something that led me then to look up all of his work, find every piece of information that he'd ever shared on this. And as I did, I kept noticing he was talking about all of the great philosophers of our time were vegetarian. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's good to know. I mean, I eat less meat now than I used to, and this and that. And I had started looking into getting away from the heavily processed meat. So me and my partner had started getting food from a local farm. It was a service called Farm Drop, which no longer runs. It diminished after the COVID lockdown, as a lot of businesses did. With this business, it was working with local farms to go around and bring fresh produce straight to your door. The first time we ordered meat from there, it turned up with blood still in the packet, dark red blood. And it was the first time I had ever seen blood in the packet. And I was shocked. And I realized that the meat that they have in supermarkets, it is just made to look nice. They call it plumping. They drain all the blood, they inject it with water, makes it look more appealing to customers. But the blood would be the life source. The blood is the part of the animal that contains the bit that keeps you alive. So people that eat because they hunt, they would have natural. People who eat meat because they farm, they would have natural meat. This is a big difference between what people have now and what people had in the past. This is a reason why people are more sick these days than ever before. I think almost everyone I've ever met has some kind of illness or disability or some kind of disease. I mean, I myself have got glasses, I'm short sighted, as well as the amount of damage that I've done to my teeth over the years from eating processed sugary foods. And yeah, it's not great. There's people that I've met that have been in far worse conditions, and these are often things that could be avoided if our food was closer to the natural state rather than all of the GMO and all of the heavy preservatives and all of the crops out there that have been sprayed with these chemicals. And the guys spraying them are wearing the hazmat suits, but it's safe for consumption. So it's having to contend with being poisoned all of the time. And all of these poisons, they desensitize us. A lot of the time, you just get used to it and don't think about it. When I was eating 3 McDonald's breakfasts today, I wasn't exactly fussed. A lot of the time, I would say to people that I don't need to worry about food poisoning because it's barely even food. I was aware that it was barely even food, but I would still eat it 3 times a day. And it was very damaging to my body in the long run. Something that I would definitely go back and change if I could. But everything happened in exactly the way it needed to for me to come to my senses, for me to make certain realizations. I'm lucky that I did get to see before it was too late. The farm drop place, it was a stepping stone into me realizing that I could go one step further and try and avoid the meat altogether. And I did go vegetarian for about a week, maybe, before then deciding to cut out animal product too. There's I started listening to some other podcasts. I think I discovered Charlie Freak with a. It was because of a guy called the Remembrancer, who was one of the guys who appeared on Santos Bonacci's channel. And I went looking for all of the videos that I could find on him because he was talking about parasites on one of his videos about cats. He was talking about toxoplasmosis, which is a parasite that comes from cat litter. It's within cats and it comes out in their feces. So these are things that you get. Doctors warn pregnant mothers not to go near cat litter because this particular parasite can cause the unborn baby to be born blind. It has been known in the past. And the way that the toxoplasmosis parasite works is it goes into mice who go sniffing around at cat feces and manage to get into the mouse. It messes with the fear and fear and excitement responses in the brain. So instead of feeling fear and danger when it smells a cat, it smells excitement and curiosity and then goes towards the cat. There's been studies in which they've seen mice going up and cuddling up to cats basically and then being eaten by the cat, which then reunites the toxoplasmosis parasite with the cat in which it was living in or residing in originally. And they say that this is something that is a great step in evolution for the parasite, for it to be able to have a complete life cycle in that way. And it doesn't just inhabit cats. This is something that is said to be anyone who has owned cats is likely to have contracted this at some point. People that own cats are quite likely to be risk takers. They're, I mean, this isn't like something that I could point at every single person that owns cats and prove it, but this is something that I have seen quite often as a recurring theme, that people with cats are often prone to motorcycle accidents and things that involve danger. People would often get into toxic relationships because things that they recognize as danger, they recognize now as something that excites them. These are people that are often into rebellious things. They're based on sex, drugs, and rock and roll over religion. It's not often that I see people that are really into religion and cats. Apart from the Pope, I hear he's a cataholic. But there is a bunch of studies on the toxoplasmosis, and after seeing the Remembrancer talking about it, I decided to look into anything else that that man had to share. And I came across a video that was the truth about what food really is, which had Casey from Vegetable Police, Justin Carpenter, Charlie Freak and his wife Colleen. There was Santos appears at the end to say that he's going to put the video on his channel, and the Remembrancer who comes in to share some insights and knowledge. And the things that I heard on that one, like the word coronavirus being a perfect anagram of carnivorous, that was like an eye-opening moment. Suddenly I'd been looking into gematria at the time, and the gematria of anagrams is always perfect as it's the exact same letters that are used. And then I realized coronavirus was often seen as one word. It was often put in the news as one word rather than two separate words. So for it to be a perfect one word anagram of carnivorous, it did make me wonder if the people that were suffering more from coronavirus were those that were eating a heavy meat diet. I didn't find any studies that supported this, but it was something that was eye opening enough for me to consider not eating meat. And I decided after listening to a few videos from Remembrancer and from the others talking about juice fasting that it was worth. The KC from Vegetable Police was actually doing a juice fast at that point. He was on day 10 when I started doing mine. I decided to go for a day and just see what happened. I went for 24 hours of just drinking nothing but apple juice. And at the end, I felt quite good. I felt quite full of energy. It didn't slow me down at work. I thought this is quite good. I'm going to see if I can go for 2 days. And then after that, I thought I'd see if I can go for a week. And then I just kept pushing the goalposts back to see if I could do longer and longer. KC from Vegetable Police was doing a 90-day juice fast, and I started on day 10 of his. I ended up going for 80 days. I stopped on the same day. It happened to fit in perfectly. I decided to stop after I'd gone to the once when I'd gone toilet, it was passing through clean, just nothing but water coming out. Then I realized there was nothing else to release from the inside. But the previous 80 days, I'm not going to go into details, but the things that came out of me, I'm glad they're gone. It was disgusting. The smells that were coming out were disgusting. The things I was glad to see the back of, I was so glad that it was outside of my body and not still inside. It was something that I figured could have only come from years of eating tainted food. And I was hoping that doing this would get rid of any parasites that would happen to be inside that were just doing their job basically because the body allows them to be there because they're there to help break down some of the difficult foods that your body can't process. So it's not that they're there illegally or anything. They're not there without your body's knowledge. Your body's aware of them being there and they do things. They The parasite that is known as toxoplasmosis is its own thing. It's potentially different, but the other things, they're there to help you break down meats and processed foods in your stomach that are highly acidic, that your enzymes aren't able to digest. As a lot of our enzymes that we produce, uh, they can't survive in a heavy acidic environment. And a lot of these foods were quite heavy in acid. I find that if I have things like melons, got a Galia melon here, the way that I feel if I do a watermelon fast or a watermelon juice fast or something like that, it feels like it puts my body in a more alkaline state than a more acidic state. Excuse me. The way that I feel after doing that is enough to reassure me that I'm going in the right direction. The thing that kept me fasting after the first attempt when I went for 80 days, it wasn't so much anything that anyone was saying anymore. It was that I tried it for myself and I knew that I was much healthier than when I started the fast, when I ended the fast. There was about 7 days in, I started getting severe pains in my stomach. Like I noticed a couple of other parts of my stomach that I'd feel pain and activity going on, a bit like pins and needles or tingling in the area. And then the next day, I would go to the toilet, release something, and the pain was gone. There was one pain that I noticed after about 7 days. It started in this location. It stayed for a couple of days, felt that same sensation, the tingling and the pain in that specific area. And then I felt it move and it shifted. And then I felt another area a bit further down that felt pain and that felt tingling. And it must have taken until 2 days and sorry, 2 weeks and 3 days to get rid of the pain. I was laying there at night, deep breathing to try and get to sleep because the pain was so immense. And after a while, it released and I've not felt pain there again. Or I've felt pain there afterwards in a fast that I done last year. I started doing a 6 day water fast and I felt a lot of activity in that same area that suggested that there was still things that needed repairing in that area. So I know that there's things inside of me that still need to heal up. Fasting, I think, is the best way of doing that. I trust fasting over Western medicine. I have felt benefits from fasting in the way that I never imagined was possible. The theory was that it gives the enzymes and the insides of your body a chance to self clean, because you're no longer having to digest like 3 meals a day. You're actually giving your body a break so that it's able to clear out and clean anything that needs cleaning, sweep out any dust that's been swept under the carpet, and get rid of anything that's just been stored away. Like, effectively, it's like not being able to process and break things down properly. So instead of washing a saucepan after you've cooked something, you just stick it back in the drawer, and eventually you're going to have to pull that out of the drawer, and you'll see that whatever was stuck to it has now gone all moldy, and it's in a far worse condition than when you put it away. And it still needs to be processed. You still need to wash it. You still need to clean it, or you need to throw it away. And that's what the body does when you start fasting. You start pulling out all of these old things that are stored away and cleaning them up or getting rid of them. And that was honestly what saved my life. That what I managed to find through initially prayer, as I was led in that direction from just begging for a sign of the truth. Once I found that, I latched onto it. I latched onto the one piece of truth that I could trust, because I had tried it and tested it and it worked. I wasn't any more that I needed there to convince me one way or the other. Everything that I looked, when I was looking at researching into how long can you go without food or water, and the bonus effects of fasting, and a lot of the information that I found at the time was looking in a negative light on fasting and saying that there were no scientific proof of fasting working to help with any kind of health benefits that it's changed now. Now when I go searching for information online, there's actually a lot that supports the benefits of fasting, but all that I was finding back then was negative views on fasting, saying that it there's no conclusive studies that shows that it offers any real benefits, and that a lot of it would have been placebo. Though whether or not something is placebo or not, it still works on the person that believes it. And I think that that's a big part of having faith. I think that there are a lot of people out there that have attempted to fast to try and cure a disease or something, and it's not happened for them. It's not worked. And I think that a big part of whether or not something is going to work is as to whether or not you believe it's going to work. If you don't believe it's going to work in the first place, then it's very unlikely that it will work for you. So yeah, I'm gonna take a quick moment here, see if I can. That's it. See if I can enter the group chat on here, which I cannot find. Chat filter. Show all messages. Brilliant. I found the chat. Oh my god. There's loads of you have been talking to me. I thought I was on my own here. Hey Dan. Hey Christina. How's it going? It's great to have you guys here. It's unbelievable. So yeah, Dan says, "Hey Daryl, I'll be in and out today. I'm on my way home on SpaceX, bringing home Sunny and Batch from the ISS after being stuck for 9 months. Wi-Fi not too bad up here in space. Will be splashing down in about 8 hours. I have to go just now." Adiyogi, nice to have you here. It's good to see you here. Adiyogi's asking, what work do I do for a living? Well, I spent 15 years building things out of wood. I was their only shed maker for about 10 years. And so, in terms of profession, I'd say that I'm fully trained on uh, making things out of wood. They used to come to me with all new designs of making jigs and things for other people to use. And I was forklift trained. I was using the forklift. I was first aid trained. I used to be a first aider. It's run out now, but I recently did a CSCS course on the Universal Credit Job Centre Plus scheme, and I've been looking for jobs in construction, but everything seems to be asking for people that drive, and sadly, I don't drive. Adiyogi, in our following, we do highest fasting. Awesome. What would be highest fasting? Who's Jarif? Hey, man, what's up? Hey, Jarif, how's it going? This isn't a recorded video. I do apologize. I didn't actually have access to the chat. It's, this is the first time I've been able to see it. It's an hour and a half into the video, and the first time I've actually seen the chat. I'm responding to all of these. I'm not sure if you guys are still here. I'll get to the bottom of the messages now, see what you're saying. I had a moment of clarity that ex-alcoholics and Dan has had at some point. Yes, that is the moment of clarity. That was my first realization that things were going wrong. Man, it's a shame that I didn't realize that people were talking. I always love people talking on the chats. I'm sorry to have been ignoring you. This is me being an absolute noob when it comes to technology. This is me not knowing how to do my own live streams yet. This was my first attempt at doing a live stream presentation. It's been eventful, I guess. I've learned what I can do better in future. The video that I've done, I'm going to be putting into a recorded video, so I'll be able to put graphics to it, and it'll be a little bit easy. Oh, excuse me. Yes, Dan's still here. How's it going, Dan? I appreciate your patience. I apologize for the lack of response. Yeah, I'm available here for questions. Like, anyone has any questions about what it was I was doing earlier, if anyone saw that? Or... I know Christina would have gone off for iftar by now. This is approaching 4 o'clock, is it? Is it approaching 4 p.m.? No, it's 3:30. But yeah, this is interesting coming on at this time. Decided to come on a little bit earlier to try and have a bit of extra time to get through the presentation, but not entirely sure yet on the best times to do streaming. It seems like a lot of people would prefer it to be in the evenings, but for the moments while I'm doing the fasting for Ramadan, I'm not doing anything during the day other than things that are like learning about the Quran or learning about things that will benefit my brain, learning Arabic. You tried ringing me on Discord to let me know. I do apologize. I don't get any notifications off of Discord. I don't give apps permissions to give me notifications. I don't get notifications from Discord, Messenger, or um, WhatsApp, or any of those. So I do apologize. This is what I should probably start doing, as it'd make me more sensitive. How's about that? I spent over an hour talking about being desensitized in this video, and I wasn't able to feel everyone's presence here, trying to tell me that they were here in the live chat. Please bear with me. This was the third time that I've gone live. This is all new to me. I'm still learning how to do things, and yeah, there's going to be many mistakes. But if you don't make mistakes, then are you even human? I do apologize, Dan. Uh, I will do my best in future to try and make sure that I will receive these notifications somehow. So yeah, the main thing, I don't trust the new cookies systems or anything else when they ask you about accepting cookies and cookie permissions. I usually go through, even when it takes ages, I'll scroll through all of them and disallow individually all of the permissions for storage of cookies, because I don't trust it. The cookie analytics and the marketing data, I believe that all of this is, they want it from you. I've seen the newspaper articles and things like that online now have, if you won't accept the cookies, then you have to pay for their services, which means that your accepting of these services or your accepting of these cookies is something that they value, which means that you are the product. And I don't trust it. So I opt out of them whenever I can. And it just feels better for me not to be allowing too many permissions. I've read on terms and conditions, like when I go to download apps, sometimes I read the permissions that it wants for your app, like Word. Microsoft Word wants permission to alter and delete your work without the without your knowledge or prior consent. And I don't trust that. I don't trust that they aren't able to just remove entire pieces of work that I would do if it went against like something that was a Microsoft guideline, just because I'd given them permission to come in to my Microsoft Word and delete them. Like WhatsApp wants access to my calls and call history and things like that. I don't trust these things. I see a lot of people getting scammed on things that come through WhatsApp, and I don't trust giving these apps my things. Oh, Dan saying never accept cookies. I always scroll through. Yes, 100%. Smart man. That is something that not a lot of people do in this day and age. People don't read their terms and conditions. I don't like downloading new apps or using new services because every time I do, I sit there and read all through the terms and conditions. A lot of it you can skim through because you're aware of what's being said, but sometimes they'll catch you out on things. Sometimes there's things in there that if you're not aware of, can kick you in the butt later and down the road. Dan saying they sell your info and we get nothing. Exactly. And for them to accept that as payment for the news journalism services instead of a paid subscription, that's very telling. That's very telling that your marketing data is worth money to them. Like, it's one of the reasons I pay a lot of attention when I'm reading terms and conditions and privacy policy, and I look at what they're doing. I know that somewhere out there they've probably got access to my information somehow from permissions that I've gave from something else that was unavoidable, but I do my best to give my permission to as little of these things as possible. Like when I was reading the terms and conditions for joining Rumble, one of the things I noticed in Rumble that they did 4 different types of Rumble account. So you had one which was where you get monetized, and Rumble acts as your agent, and it promotes you on other sites, including YouTube. Another time, the second one, B, was Rumble will act as your agent and not put you on YouTube, but promote you on other sites, and you will be monetized. The third one is Rumble will not be your agent, but you will be monetized. And the fourth one was you will not be monetized and Rumble will not be your agent. So I looked into what it means to have Rumble as your agent. And when Rumble is your agent, it means that any videos that you post on there would be left on there for 50 years, that you're not allowed to remove them because it is not considered your property to remove. It is considered their property. You're actually signing your rights away to the content that you've created and giving them full permissions to do as they please with it. And the only way that you can remove things is after a 50-year period. If you write to them 6 months in advance and let them know that you would not want to renew this 50-year period for another 50 years. When you have things like that in the terms and conditions, you really have to question. Dan's just put, I'm your agent, not Rumble. Exactly. This is why I trust you. This is why I don't trust Rumble. I went for option C. My stuff is monetized on Rumble, but they have no claim to my intellectual property. And I find that it's very important to be reading these things because you're just uninformed otherwise. Like a lot of people during the COVID pandemic, they didn't know about cohort pooling, which I read in the terms and conditions when I had to send off for a COVID test. I read in the terms and conditions that they use COVID cohort pooling, which is due to the large number of people that were asking for tests to be done. They decided to put things in a group of 10. So they would do batches of 10 that they test at a time. If uh, one of the swabs in that batch of 10 came back with a positive result, everyone in that batch of 10 would be sent a positive result and therefore have to stay at home for 2 weeks and isolate. And I couldn't believe it. I was asking everyone about this, like, are you aware of this? Do you know that this is happening? And they're like, no. It's like, does anyone read any of this? Like, no one was interested enough. No one cares. People are so used to just, oh, click accept. Don't, oh, it's part of the desensitizing. They just throw it in your face so much that you get used to just clicking accept and not paying attention to it. Dan's upping his fees from 13% to 15%. Sounds fair. I think that the Rumble, they take something like 20% and 40% if it's ad revenue. So you're still clearly better than Rumble. The terms and conditions. It's worth having a skim through them. It's worth knowing what you're signing before you sign them. Would you sign a deal with the devil before reading the terms and conditions? That's when a dance with the devil could last you forever. That's not what you want. The cost of living, Daryl. I understand that. Cost of living has gone up so much. So yeah, that's something that they do with not just inflation, but I've heard of a thing called shrinkflation, where everything that you're receiving now is smaller than it used to be, like chocolate bars and stuff like that. I'm just glad that I gave up processed food a couple of years ago. I didn't give up all processed food, but I gave up mainly the processed sugary foods and everything like that. Like there's raw vegans out there that eat more than I do. There's things that I've cut out of my diet that like people that eat a vegan diet would comfortably eat, but I consider like yeast and things like that. I don't trust yeast because I used to get serious tendonitis in this arm when I was working building fence panels. I would, through repetitive use of constantly flipping over these feather edge boards, I'd find that I'd get inflammation right here on my wrist or on my forearm to the point where if I bent my wrist, I'd hear it creaking. And it was that bad and that painful that I would have to take a prescription anti-inflammatory called naproxen. And that was the only thing that would reduce the inflammation so that I could go back into work again the next day, or I'd take it if there was a flare up and I'd be okay to work again for a while. And I used to suffer with things like athlete's foot. I didn't realize that these things are actually caused by candida, which is something that you get in your system when you have an abundance of yeast, because too much yeast in your system can be bad for you. So your body gets candida to start eating and breaking down and processing the yeast so that you're able to process it safely. The trouble is that a buildup of candida causes things like the tendonitis or the athlete's foot. It's often in your limbs because that's where all of these things are sent. All of this toxic stuff that we eat is sent to the limbs because it's damaging to your organs. If it's kept too close to the organs, it can become toxic and you can become very ill. Imagine having athlete's foot on one of your organs. That would be horrible, wouldn't it? So I cut yeast out of my diet, which makes it very difficult for trying to eat in public places. When I say I cut it out of my diet, it doesn't mean I eat absolute zero yeast. I still eat things that have yeast extract in them sometimes. I eat very small amounts of it to the point where I haven't had another flare up of tendonitis or athlete's foot in about 4 years now. So very good. Yeah, in at least 3 years, probably about 4 years now. Like yeah, like spent this is a learning curve for me. This was a presentation video that I done based on ring symmetry in the Quran and ring symmetry in the music theory. And now what I'm talking about is quite far removed from it. This is how easy it is to get onto other subjects. So that's something I think I'll look at in future. I'll try and keep the presentations to something that is something that you can deliver the piece and then answer questions about the piece, and then maybe a few questions that are off topic and call it a day. Up here where I live, council tax is going up 15%. Oh my God. My partner who works for the council got 3% pay rise, and councillors give themselves 18%. It is disgusting. I fully agree, Dan. I remember this years ago when you had Jeremy Hunt giving the NHS workers something like was it an 11% rise in their pay or something? Yeah, it was discussed in levels of difference between like the politicians and the amount of pay rise that they got that year, and the people working on the front line for our NHS and the petty amount that they got that year. And it was like, these are the people that are supposed to be out there saving lives. These are the people that you told us during the pandemic to go out and clap for, but you won't pay them. You won't give them what they're worth because your bonuses are worth more than that. But then in the UK, these are the same politicians that were having their port and cheese parties when they were supposed to be isolating, when they told everyone else that you need to be isolated because you're at risk of spreading disease that could kill people, and people weren't allowed to go see their loved ones, but their politicians were allowed to go to parties where they would get drunk and get off their faces on cheese. So yeah, wonderful government, wonderful governing. Absolutely disgusting. Got booed at the Olympics. Yeah, not surprised. Not surprised at all. It's very disturbing what the government can get away with. Something that I find is like very hypocritical when you look at the governments. If the governments were on minimum wage, you watch how quick minimum wage would shoot up to like £20 an hour. It's very much elitism when you're looking at the government compared to everyone else. It's a two-tier system. In fact, our governor at the moment is referred to as two-tier Keir, or Starmer Granny Harmer, because he was taking away old people's benefits, their winter allowance that was giving them money to help keep their houses warm, as old people feel the cold a lot more and are more prone to diseases like pneumonia and things that are often uh, felt more in the cold. Or it's a disturbing world that we live in, but this is why I think the government wants to keep everyone divided, because if everyone's just constantly divided, then they're not going to unite against the government and say that we're not going to stand for this. Like, it's quite disturbing the amount of people that are looking at having their benefits cut now because they're suffering from depression, and they no longer see depression as a thing that you should be uh, receiving benefit for. Yeah, Dan, it's like they want the old people to die. It is. It's even if you look at that woman that was pushing the the euthanasia thing that they were trying to push, that they're doing in Canada already. And it's like they reckon that euthanasia at first is it's just going to be for terminally ill people, people that are in a lot of pain and suffering. Yeah, that's how it starts. But in Canada, there was soldiers that had PTSD, and they were being offered euthanasia. It's like slowly they use it to start getting rid of the people that they no longer want to pay for, and that's the government for you. They're trying to increase their profits by removing all of these nuisances for them to keep paying out money for, these nuisances like our grandparents, these nuisances like our loved ones that are incapacitated. And with their recent decisions about taking people off of benefits for, this is Labour, by the way. These are the people that used to be heavy on making sure that these people received benefits. That was a big turn in. Like, a lot of people that I've seen online have buyer's remorse now with voting for Labour. Not that things would be any better with either party. It's this year was always going to be a really bad show. So it's to the point where both parties seemed like they were trying to lose this year. Neither one of them seemed like they had a good manifesto. No one really wanted to be in control when everything collapsed the way it has. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Dan. COVID didn't do the job they thought it would. As the politicians, they were aware that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't that dangerous that they had to isolate. They were okay to go hanging out unmasked in places where they're sharing port and cheese. Like, keep banging on about it now, but it's one of the things that was made public. It's not a conspiracy theory. It was something that was a major scandal in the UK. I imagine it was similar. There was similar stories turning up worldwide. So yeah, that's not something that tinfoil hat wearers are coming out with. That's something that our newspapers were coming out with because it's disgusting the hypocrisy of it all. And yeah, the way that they jumped on with COVID, it was almost like they're just exercising control. They didn't care about people's health. They weren't interested in people staying healthy or being safe. They had people that were told to stay at home. They weren't allowed to go visit their loved ones that were dying in the hospital, but they were allowed to go party with port and cheese. The Canadian government, I believe they had someone that was refused. They they weren't allowed to leave the hospital because they had COVID. They had long COVID or something serious that was like terminal, and their family weren't allowed in to see them, and they weren't allowed to go see their family, and they knew they only had a short time left, or they'd been told they only had a short time left, and they opted for euthanasia. And when they were when she was having euthanasia, they decided that they'd let the family in to say goodbye to her. And it's like, but if you're willing to do that, why not be willing to let her go home with the family? Like, if you stay in isolation, it's the same as being in the quarantine or being in the hospital there. Dan saying 24-hour news media has caused all this division. 100%. Yep. So many people divided. So many people. It's impossible really to have conversations with people about it without their backs going up because they recognize that it's a divisive topic and want no part in it. And a lot of people that I used to speak to, especially the people I was working with, they were on the fear side of it. They were worried that there are but people they're considered at risk or this and that. 24-hour news is the worst. Yep. The media is the virus. We're living in a scripted reality. A lot of it is very scripted. Not sure if you remember the video that I done. This is a a clear and present threat to our democracy, where you had hundreds of news stations all reading the exact same script. I've got another one that I'm in the middle of piecing together now, which is containing some more bits and pieces to just show that it's a scripted reality. I remember when people used to tell me that wrestling was fake, and it's like, yeah, but you watch the news. Do you not realize how fake the news is? Like, and obviously, a broken clock is right twice a day. The news will report on some things that are true, but a lot of it is just propaganda. It's being spread for a reason. It's being told in a certain light. You're right, Dan. They control the narrative. That is the narrative. A bit like this devil in your ear. It's trying to pull you away from having a connection with God or what is natural or goodwill. Instead, there's just this constant news in your ear. Can't trust this, can't trust that. Wars, wars, wars. Disease, abuse, people murdering each other. Look at how horrible humanity is. You need us. You need your government. Fear, fear, fear. It's quite scary in that respect. Yeah, I apologize to anyone that's just joined. It's been about an hour since I was talking about the initial topic of this live stream. Do you think that it's probably worth coming out of this live stream and going into another one? But as this is a learning curve, I think I'll just let this run until the end. And then next time I'll look at either not doing a specific topic and just doing a speakeasy live stream so that we can cover many topics, or having one that's dedicated to a specific topic and then trying to keep on that topic rather than tangenting off. Yeah, I'd see the media is pretty much like the devil. The media is that voice in your ear that is trying to pull you away from what is natural. They're always promoting things that don't make sense. The one that made me laugh most in recent years was believing that climate change and cow farts is responsible for global warming. It's like there is a thing called climate change, but it didn't come about through cow farts. What the hell, people? Like, there's even a thing called bovir now that they've injected into the cows to try and stop them from farting. Farting is a natural part of eating food. It's when fermentation happens in your stomach. It's what happens when you release the gas. Dan saying, yeah, most viewers I had today was 5. I wasn't paying attention, to be honest. But yeah, I imagine this time of day is probably not the best. It is what it is, bro. I'm not. It's I was trying to come on early mainly as a way to try and avoid it being iftar time. As for the moment, I'm not doing evening streams, but I think that once I finish doing Ramadan, gonna switch it around so that maybe I spend time with my partner in the day and spend time doing work in the evening. But it is what it is for the moment. Yeah, at least you're here, Dan. I'm glad you're here. It's nice having a chat this way. Not entirely sure how I feel about um, having a big audience yet. I still like the idea of having a small audience so that when we get chats going, that things won't be rolling off of the screen too fast. I like to have things where people trickle in slowly and we're able to get good live streams going that way without me finding like a perfect time of day to get the most viewers. So I'd be happy with just finding like people that watch my stuff. If you could let me know maybe what times are good for you, and I'll try and work out what works as a good medium for us all. And moving forward, then can work it out. It's going to be another 12 days, I think, of Ramadan. Yeah. Then after that, I'll be still fasting for Lent, but I'll be able to switch around the times because I won't be looking at just doing specific things that will either be focused on brain training, learning languages, learning about scripture, or work-based searches like searching for jobs, etc., doing chores and things like that. So, like at the moment, I'm doing all of that during the daytime, whereas I could easily switch it and do that kind of thing in the evening. Yeah, if it gets too big, I'll start banning people. Yeah. I imagine you probably will need to. When it gets big, will attract a lot of attention from people that will have nothing but trolling to share. And I don't mind people trolling me, making fun of me. That's all good, but I won't tolerate that for people doing it to other members in the chat. Not nasty ones. It's different if friends come on here and start giving each other playful jibes, but yeah, being nasty won't be tolerated. Nah, I have two of the greatest moderators ever. They will remove you before you even have a chance to say what. One strike and you're out 100%. So yeah, I do believe in freedom of speech, but when it comes to targeting people with hatred, won't stand for it. That's what they say is the paradox of free speech, like not including hate speech. But then there's arguments on what constitutes as hate speech now, isn't there? So yeah, I find any hippie jokes and you're out. Yeah, if they're directed at me, is fine. Directed at anyone else on the chat, you may find yourself removed. You have been warned. Well, I say warned. If you happen to see this exact portion of this exact video, like, yeah, you will have been. Yeah, Dan, how's things going on your end? Think I've talked about myself enough. Maybe it's time to open it up in the chat and start getting another conversation going. Think 2 hours and 5 minutes. It's quite a while for listening to me ramble on about myself, isn't it? Awesome. Dan's not doing too bad. Anyone else who's watching, you're welcome to join in and say a couple of things in the chat. We're going to be here for a little while longer. I've got a bit of time before I've got to go and do some other things, get some more chores done before I break my fast at iftar, which will be at 6 o'clock. Not 6, about 15 minutes past today, I think. We're sat here in the sunshine in the summer house. Dan, you're making me jealous. That sounds amazing. It's nice and warm out at the moment. I see the sun blazing in through the window. Still wearing a hoodie, starting to feel a bit warm inside, but I decided to keep it on. It's what I like to wear when I'm doing the streams. Well, actually, today, especially as it's Tuesday, which is Mars Day in French, Mardi. Mars is red. Got the red in homage. It's not as a form of worship. There's only one worthy of worship, which is the source creator who is above all else. But I do like to pay homage to the different luminaries that are named after the days of the week. So Monday being Moon Day, Tuesday is Tears Day, who is the god of war, who is Mars, the god of war. So it's Mars Day. Should probably do it in French, really. It makes more sense. So Lundi, Lunar Day, which is the moon. Mardi, Mars Day. Mercredi, Mercury Day. Jeudi, Jupiter Day. Vendredi, Venus Day. Samedi, Saturday. Saturn's Day. And Dimanche, commonly known as Day of the Lord, which is Sunday, Day of the Sun, as the sun is the symbolic representation of Jesus in the New Testament, who is referred to as the Lord, even though he is really just a messenger of the Lord, which is a messenger for you to read the scripture and not expect a literal Jesus to come back and save you, but the words that wisdom that he imparted be the way, the light, and the truth that helps save you because you've listened to his words, followed his advice, and found your way through the darkness. Yeah, definitely jealous of you sat in the sunshine in the summer house. Definitely need to go out and spend more time outdoors. I think I'll do a live stream outside at some point when I can figure out how to do it, where to do it. Probably be good to do it in a park. I can hang the tripod thing off of a branch. Got a little stream running by in the background, Dan saying birds on the feeders flying around, squirrels as well. Bliss. That sounds peaceful. I love squirrels and seeing birds as well. When we go down to the park, there's often a lot of squirrels around. I've done a couple of videos on my channel where I've got video squirrels that are chasing me at one point because they can tell that I've got nuts because I had walnuts in my bag, and just started throwing them out to the squirrels, giving them all a little sharing the love. Uh, I do enjoy being around nature, being around God's creatures, being around the trees, especially. Trees are very good to us. I'm one of those hippies that does like to hug trees. I like to walk barefoot in the mud and stand underneath a tree to be caught in the Taurus field, as it's a nice energy. You got the Tari, I believe, actually comes from the word Taurus, as does the word Torah, which is represented as when you see certain things in the Wheel of Fortune tarot card, which is next to me. Actually, I should be able to get this out to show a representation. But yeah, having a stream running in the background is amazing. The gentle trickling of the stream is very therapeutic to listen to. That's stuff that people listen to on the internet. You go find a YouTube video that will have that stream. And interesting how many that you get. Ah, here we go. Got the Wheel of Fortune. So you can see on the Wheel of Fortune, you've got the Yod Hey Vav Hey, which is the name of God. You've also got Tarot, Tarot, which backwards is Torah, Tora. If you use a T, I guess, instead of a H. You also got the word rota in here, Rota, because it is a wheel and it's rotation. You also have the 4 cherubim. You got the eagle, the I'm not able to. Yeah, there's the bull with the horns. Is that the man with the face or the lion? That's the lion. So you got the bull, the lion, the eagle, and the man. So that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. And that's the 4 seasons. So they're the 4 fixed seasons. You got the devilish looking guy here carrying the wheel. You've got the snake. It's something that I'll go into a bit more depth. It's probably a little bit too deep for right now, but I've got a series that I call Links and Dinks of the Tarot cards, pointing out all different links and coinkydinks with the Rider-Waite Tarot deck and the symbology used in it. With all of these things, I think that things that are created by God. They're created by divine inspiration. The devil doesn't create. The devil can only pervert. He can twist and manipulate what already exists, but he has no ability to create. So I don't see these things as a work of the devil, but I do see these things as being taken over by the devil to try and trick people and misinform people. When the garden is flourishing, I'll put a video up now. Just now, everything is dead. It's getting there though. That would be awesome, Dan. I look forward to seeing that. I like your videos. I think your videos are good. I actually did go back and check to see if you'd done any more when I didn't, when I wasn't posting for a while. I was curious to see if you were doing okay. It's quite difficult sometimes to find the inspiration to do videos, but I find that it comes very natural when I'm doing the fasting. It comes very natural when I'm on nothing but a fruit diet, and when I'm eating a lot of heavy foods that are like heavy cooked foods, heavy things. Took most of them down. I saw there was only 5 on there when I last looked. Yeah, I find when I'm on a very light diet, when I'm on a very sattvic diet, then it's easy to find the inspiration. It's easy to see the clarity. When I broke my last fast, I felt very confused and very conflicted about what to post and how to talk about it. There was a lot of things that were coming about that I felt was almost a duty for me to talk about, because I talk about truth and I like talking about truth. And it feels that I shouldn't be ignoring certain aspects of the truth just because it's inconvenient. Dan's got a video up now called "Do You Like Bread?" I'm going to check that out after the stream. That is something that I need to see. Excuse me. I can feel some activity in my stomach today. Keep burping. That's a sign of fermentation. And since I haven't eaten since last night, that's a sign that something is being broken down in my system that no longer needs to be there. Something is about to be released. I like that. That's something that I do fasting for. It's something that makes me feel physical reassurance that what I'm doing is moving in the right direction. So yeah, do you like bread? I absolutely love bread, which is why it was so difficult for me to give up yeast. There's only a few products I still have that have yeast in them. Like if I go to me and my partner will go to a dim sum place in Chinatown or near Chinatown, and we'll have bao buns. I love bao buns, and they contain yeast, but that's like maybe 3 or 4 days a year that I would eat that. Otherwise, I cut out yeast. My mum makes some amazing bread. She makes bread out of bicarbonate of soda, so it's like a soda bread, and it is delicious, and it is so nice. No yeast in it whatsoever, and I could eat that all day. That is something I honestly like. Just having that and some soup, and just dipping that into soup, it's divine. And then keeping the crusty bits so that I can spread a little bit of peanut butter on and have a little peanut butter toast piece. Gorgeous. It's a blank video with a song I love. Ah, nice. I shall have to listen to it. Is that you with the hearts down? If not, then appreciate the love. And if it is you, I appreciate the love too. I don't know why I said if not. I felt mean. I didn't mean it. Uh, I will definitely check out the video. So the main purpose of this one was talking about ring symmetry in the Quran and ring symmetry in the music. I find that a lot of things in life have symmetry, and the ring symmetry is like a perfect balance of the left and right halves, as well as the top and bottom halves. I did it earlier on in the presentation. Got the little diagrams that I've done that depict this. So it's things like this, kind of reflecting two different types of symmetry. So you have the left half is the opposite of the right half. So 1 2 2 2 1 2 2 1 2 2 2 1 2 2. I realize it's all backwards. Whereas there's the line of symmetry in the fold of the book. Anything on the left side is mirrored by the right side, a bit like the left and right side of your face. And then you've also got the top and the bottom. So there's a black key opposing the white key, and a white key opposing the black key, white key, black key, and these two in the middle are considered as both white keys and black keys. So it's a perfect line of symmetry in both the middle and the top and the bottom. And the purpose of this video is discussing different links between the Quran, which has hadiths and surahs. Sorry, not hadiths. It has hadiths is like sayings of Muhammad. Surahs are like the written accounts of it in the Quran. So the Quran, I believe, comes from the kutub, meaning book, or kitab, meaning book, and Ran, which Santos Bonacci goes as far as to say is Ram, because N and M are interchangeable, which is backed up on the idea that it's talking about the Lamb of God. And you get the word Islam, sounds like it's confirming this, saying it's Lamb. This is coinkydinks rather than links, but still felt like it's worth sharing. It's like an apology or forgiveness video for someone. Ah, I see. Nice. I put in the comments of the video, let's break bread together. Brilliant. I like the idea of that. Like Jesus talks about feeding people with bread and fish, and I don't believe that these are actual physical bread and physical fish. It's more that it's representation of the symbology. It's about knowledge. The fish represents knowledge. When Jesus talks about casting your nets to the right, it means not thinking with your left brain. The left brain is the side of you that needs proof, it needs empirical evidence. It's the science brain that does the dissecting, whereas the right brain is the wholesome brain that believes with faith and looks at the whole picture. So the left is the facts, figures, and logic. The right is the law, legend, and magic. And Jesus is asking you to cast your nets to the right in order to gain this knowledge, because that is how you manage to gain the fish. The fish represents knowledge. You get the ichthys fish. Ichthys means fish in Greek and is often associated with Jesus. And Jesus with the bread and the fish. It's also interesting that the bread would represent Virgo, which is the maiden that collects the wheat, which is used to make the bread, and the fish being Pisces, which is perfectly opposite on the zodiac wheel. I should have a picture of that. I'm pretty sure I've done one in this book. So yeah, this one should work. Got like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. This was one I done where I decided to use Pisces to try and link the two, because I thought it was an interesting that you have the Vesica Pisces kind of line here being connected. But there is one that's more generally accepted, which has the Libra in the center. So this one is something I've done to syncretize the Chinese zodiac as well. So I've got the symbols for the Chinese zodiac here. I'll go into that in a different video. See if I've got. Ah, I had one all along. So yeah, as you can see here, got Pisces, and then opposing Pisces is Virgo. So that'd be Jesus with the bread and the fish. One of the quotes there he said was, "Man does not survive off of bread and fish alone, but by every word of God." It's meaning that you should read the entire Bible, or the entire of your scripture, because it's not just the Bible. God didn't make it so that only people that speak a certain language would be able to get into heaven or to do goodwill. God makes it so that these things are available to you. It's your choice as to whether or not to go into it, but it would be available to you in a way that's recognizable for you. If you're unable to read, it doesn't mean that you're damned to eternal hellfire. It just means that the information will find you another way. It will appear to you in a dream, it will appear to you in images, but one way or another, it will appear. You just have to have the eyes to see it and the ears to hear. Yeah, I do like that bread is often broken as a way of burying the hatchet, so to speak, when you break bread with someone. It's a good way of recognizing a kinship and reuniting. I think that we're at that stage in the world at the moment. We've had a very divisive period that started around 2014, 2015, maybe before that. I think that things started getting a bit heated before that, when people started talking about flat earth, and people were talking about vaccines and autism back then, which was very divisive. But I didn't see the full effects of people being divided until it got to Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. And something I found quite funny about that was that Hillary was on the left and Trump was on the right. Trump's uh, campaign was called MAGA, which was Make America Great Again. And when I started learning Japanese, it was an easy way for me to remember my left and right, because left is Hidori, which sounds like Hillary, and right is Migi, which sounds like MAGA. So amazing links there that I thought made it very easy for me to pick up on certain words. Uh, it's getting on a bit. I'm going to go for about another 10-15 minutes if anyone fancies asking some questions. Or otherwise, we'll just slowly start wrapping up. I think to try and come to a conclusion, or a Jerry Springer's final thought, if you will, on those of you old enough to remember Jerry Springer. Gotta show my age here. Got the point of the ring symmetry is that when I recognize the symmetry, I recognize it as a working of a divine working. Even if it was written by a man, it was the divine inspiration that enabled it to fit in this manner, especially when it's something that wasn't written in order. It was written in ways that the workings were revealed and then passed on orally and then written down by those who remembered them. So this was something that wasn't built in the way that you could, in the way that I've done when I've written things palindromic based before. Because when I was younger, I was really into palindromes. So I started trying to write poems that were the same forwards as backwards, which I've shared on one of my previous videos when I found some of the old things, that a book that I'd not seen since I was like 16 years old. And I had loads of things that I'd written in there, including a haiku and a palindrome, one that was both. So if you're not familiar with haikus, a haiku is a Japanese poem that has 5 syllables, then 7 syllables, and then 5 syllables. So one that I heard on a jokes website was, haikus are short poems, but they don't always make sense. Refrigerator. There's like a little explanation of what a haiku is in the form of a haiku. And I decided, because I was into my palindromes, to try and write a palindrome where you start by writing the middle and then work your way out to write the beginning and the end, which will both mirror each other. And I had great as haikus are, palindromes are palindromes, are haikus as great? Now, I was getting into doing things like that, which I'm aware of the structure and the way that you'd need to write it in order to manifest it in a way. Now, if this is being revealed to someone that's not exactly a poet, that's not exactly a writer, and it's being passed on verbally, and then someone's put this into words, and it's managed to maintain a ring composition in the way that it has, like the whole of Al-Baqarah, which is the cow, which is the second of the surahs in the Quran, which I couldn't help but notice is called the cow, and the second star sign is Taurus, which is the bull. So I thought that that was an interesting link, or coinky dink, depending on what you believe. The writing here is backwards, but I've got the middle piece here and the pieces on either side. So the 9 different sections of Al-Baqarah, you got the first and last section are faith and belief. The second last and second section are creation and knowledge. Then the third last and third section are laws given to Israelites, laws given to Muslims. The fourth last and fourth, Abraham was tested, Muslims will be tested. And the one directly in the middle was referring to the change in direction of prayer, which actually includes the word median as well when you read it. So perfect symmetry when it came to Al-Baqarah. I think I've got a lot of other verses to analyze and to study in the Quran. But for the moment, Al-Baqarah is my favorite. That is the one that I've read the most. That is the one that I feel like I connected with the most. And that is something that when I read it, I can recognize divine inspiration there or works of the divine in there. And I recognize it through seeing the symmetry. Find that anything that's made with perfect harmony, you will find perfect symmetry, you will find is a working of God. So yeah, not got any more comments for the moment. So it's gonna wrap up saying that I don't mean any offense to anyone that's watching this and thinks that I am promoting idol worship or talking about things that are satanic or like devil worship. None of this is things that are being worshipped. These are things that are being looked at and observed for the patterns within. And I'm not trying to tell people that they have to believe what I believe. I'm just sharing my understanding and the knowledge I've gained thus far. I'm also interested to hear other people's opinions. You're more than welcome to put opinions in the comments. You're more than welcome to tell me what you think, whether you agree or disagree. I would ask that you play nice in the comments, so rather you not be on there putting messages of hate towards people. Like, there's plenty of ways to get your point across without resorting to name calling. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, you're more than welcome to join me on the journey. You're more than welcome to come back and watch another one. I shall be doing a lot more live streaming. Still very new to all of this, so not very good at it yet. If you bear with me, each day will get a little bit better. Hopefully, there'll be some really good quality ones in the future. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all for being here. Stay tuned for more, especially you, Dan. Thanks for being here. Catch you soon.